You're listening to the Grind Line Podcast.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grind Line Podcast. I'm Greg. That's Ryan. This is episode 368. The Detroit Red Wings are winning games. They beat the San Jose Sharks. They beat the Ottawa Senators in overtime. They are 8 games away from the break. There have been trades that are happening around the league, so we have stuff to talk about. But Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. We got wins. We're sitting tied with Tampa for first in the East. Well, let me rephrase that. Is it still the East? No. Sitting tied with Tampa for first in the Atlantic. Carolina keeps doing their thing and winning, so they're 2 points ahead for first in the East. So I would say for 50 games in, we're pretty happy. Pretty good spot.
The Tampa Bay Lightning may never lose again. It is absolutely insane the way that they have been playing. And Carolina, Brandon Bussi has been fantastic for Carolina.
Picked him up in fantasy, so we'll see how that goes.
He's been real good. But the Red Wings did start off. We'll start with just wins. Red Wings won 4-2 against the San Jose Sharks. You had goals from Marco Kasper and an assist from Marco Kasper, Alex DeBrincat, Dylan Larkin, JT Compher. I'm going to call this the Marco Kasper comeback game. He played like normal Marco Kasper hockey, right? Like what we were used to toward the end of last season. In corners, winning puck battles, putting pucks in front of the net. He was rewarded with a goal and an assist. He had the empty net goal. He's skating fantastic. And Marco was then bumped, I believe, up to the top line in the Ottawa game at 1.2 after they had started with James Van Riemsdyk up top. But Marco Kasper, for all intents and purposes, looks like he may be back on track. I don't want to jinx him, but it looks like he's getting his groove back a little bit.
I mean, you'll take 3 points over the last 2 games, right? Both of them wins, in particular Ottawa and then San Jose, as you mentioned. For where things have been this season with him, and they even talked about it on the broadcast. I mean, they highlighted that January to April for him has been really the spark, if you will. And I mentioned it time and time again. Last year, he had a very poor start, for a lack of better words. And when Todd came in, there was that spark. Now, we were hoping that we'd have that spark right out the gate this year, but it didn't really happen. But now all of a sudden, it feels like you're seeing a renewed sense of urgency from him. You can see and tell that the coaching staff has not given up on what his abilities are. Yes, he's gone up and down the lineup, but at the same time, he's being effective when he needs to be. And I think when you finally got him putting the puck in the net and setting up goals, that's what really all you can ask for, right? Because we're seeing it up and down the lineup right now in terms of depth scoring and really other players helping out where they need to. But if you've got him now coming to life, not saying that it's like an overwhelming thing for him right now. He's played 13, 14, 12, 12, and 13 over his last 5 games in terms of minutes. He's not blowing the score sheet away by any means, but he is out there. When he's on the ice, you notice him. And I think that's what's more important than anything.
Yeah, Todd had mentioned it a few games ago. They had asked him about Marco, and he's like, Marco's improving. He's doing the things he needs to do. Like, it's always the kind of throwaway line of they're doing what they need to do. The offense will come. Well, now the offense is coming, and it's coming in a good time because, again, Dylan Larkin did have a 5v5 goal a couple nights ago, but that top line had struggled a little bit to produce any kind of offense, even though they looked really good for most of the game, just nothing was happening. But you're getting increased scoring from guys like, you're getting a lot from guys like James Van Riemsdyk. You're getting a lot from guys like Andrew Kopp. Now, if you can get Marco Kasper going and that top line kicks off again, you can just stabilize your offense for the rest of the season because they've only got 32 games left. It's not a long stretch. So if your bottom 6 can click, if your second line is still still your strongest line, but if you can get something from your depth still, if your top line can kick back off, and you make some moves towards the trade deadline to maybe pick up a defenseman, as well as just John Gibson playing out of his mind, you're almost guaranteed to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that last point you mentioned really, and Gibson playing out of his mind, is going to be what's most important for this team down the stretch, right? Because you're going to need your goalie to win you games. Arguably, he has been. I mean, we talked about the last several that we've looked at. 4-3 overtime win, 4-2 win. The Boston game, that was just a weird one. That was Talbot, but really he
It
had a
was
good
it was
game
the
in
second
that.
half of a back-to-back, and they were gassed from giving it all
Yeah.
against Carolina.
And honestly, that was probably one of Talbot's best games of the year, which is what sucked out of that game. But it is what it is, because the day before, you have another overtime victory over a top team in Carolina. Yeah, you gave them a point, but you're making some big moves and some big wins of late. And a lot of that comes down to your goalie making a save when he needs to. Because really, the only thing you've been seeing of late in terms of goals allowed have been really well executed by the other team. And in terms of either traffic, I mean, Ottawa was on one in that game. What is today? Monday to yesterday, Sunday. And where they had what their first two goals were in 39 seconds. And it was just heavy pressure. And Gibson did what he could out to try to thwart it, but couldn't. And that's just the nature of the beast. Now, earlier in the season, I think we could agree that the team would have welted under that and they probably wouldn't have come back. But the fact that they were able to force overtime, win that thing the way that they did with Cat with an absolute freaking laser beam of a goal to win it, that speaks to where they're at as a whole. And it's as we move in past game 50, you mentioned those final 32, that's what they're going to need.
Alex DeBrincat, he's on track to have a 40-plus goal season, which is absolutely, if you would have told me when we picked him up initially, and I think we talked about, we're like, he's really good. He might have a down year because Ottawa apparently sucks the life out of everyone, and he'll bounce back. But if you're like a few years later, he's going to have another 40-goal season, I might have been like, let's pump the brakes a little bit, but that's what he's on pace to do. Mm-hmm. And if we look at the wild card standings right now, you were talking about the standings a little bit. The Red Wings are tied with Tampa. Tampa does have 3 games in hand at 64 points. Yep. But where you're starting to try to look is Montreal has 61 points and they are 1 game back from you. And if you look at the wild card, Boston has 58 and Buffalo has 57. And Buffalo lost their game today too. So you look at, would it be great to go from not making the playoffs to taking a divisional seed? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But even looking at the wild card, there's quite a bit of separation starting to build, which is what we were hoping for. Yeah. And that it just gives you that much more hope, because you look at the game we played against Ottawa and their ability to come back and fight back and win a game against a really dirty Ottawa team that tries to take liberties. Luckily, they called penalties on them that night. Like the hit on Raymond was decently scary. And then they had to send him to the room for concussion protocol.
Yeah.
We were able to come out with an overtime win there against a divisional opponent who has been trying to climb their way back up and sits at 51 points in 48 games.
Yeah, that's a team. I've seen the last couple of days a rival get thrown around with Ottawa, but I struggle with calling them a rival in any sense of the term, because they're both in the same spot in the sense that they're just trying to make the playoffs. They're playing aggressive games against each other, but really it's more Ottawa taking liberties as they do with pretty much any team. And if you piss them off enough, then they start doing really stupid things. The hit on Raymond arguably was one of those really stupid things. And you've got their fan base yet again. It's the vocal minority, if you will, because there's been some coming out finally trying to dispel the bullshit. I posted it. I want to support the Senators because I really like the young players that they have. You've got a top American, a top German, a couple top Americans, to be quite honest.
You have Olympic. Yeah, the second best German behind, the second best German forward behind Leon Draisaitl.
But there's so much skill there I want to support that, because that's the type of what you can eventually get out of a rivalry. You've got young, skilled players with your young, skilled players in Detroit crashing at each other going for the playoffs. But their fans make me hate everything about them in the franchise. And I'll leave it at that. What's important, as you mentioned, is that the separation's finally happening, albeit I think probably a month later than what we're accustomed to. But the fact of the matter still remains, the Atlantic keeps winning, and it's freaking crazy, because when you look at the division right now, over their last 10, I'll go top to bottom. Tampa 9-0-1, Detroit 7-2-1, Montreal 6-3-1, Boston 8-1-1, Buffalo is 6-3-1. They're starting to have a little bit of a level out now. But then you got Toronto. They're right there knocking on the door to the wild card. They're 7-1-2. Florida's 5-4-1, but they might be getting their spark because Kachuk's back tonight. And then you've got Ottawa. They're 4-4-2, kind of they're holding up the cellar, if you will. They're just ahead of New Jersey and New York for the bottom spot in the Atlantic or the East. So it's going to be tight. I mean, now you just have to hope that you outpace the wild card, right? Because you're, well, really, we're a third Metro. I think that was kind of the goal before, over the last couple of years, is if you can outpace the number 3 spot for the Metro seed, you're going to be in a good area because the Atlantic is so stout. But it's going to be wild, I think, down the stretch. And I was looking at it today, like March historically, not just the past couple of seasons for Detroit, has sucked. So if they can buck that trend and go at least 500, I think I'll be a much happier person. But anyways.
Yeah, that was the post, like we're talking post breaks now. And the post Olympic break is where it's really going to, you've got to separate yourself there and be like, we cannot do what we did post Four Nations break. We've got to hope, one, all our players that are playing in the Olympics come back healthy.
Yes.
But two, that you pick up where you left off right now. And I mean, if you would have told me at this point last year, I'd be saying this, the Red Wings have the 8th best chance in the NHL to make the playoffs right now at 81.7%, right above them, Edmonton at 89.5. You're in conversation with Edmonton, Vegas, Carolina, Dallas, Tampa, Minnesota, and Colorado. That's amazing company from where you thought we were going to be. I mean, all the analysts, I think, had us around 87 points on the season. We're on track to outpace that. So, I mean, just keep doing it. Right now, the Red Wings are on pace for 99 they've got it as 99.4 points, and they still have the hardest strength of schedule in the league for the remainder of the season as of right now. But what I like to see is when you look at the other teams and it shows who their tough opponents are, the Red Wings are one of their tough opponents. So we're not slouches. We have the hardest schedule to finish out the season. We've got, let's see, what we'll talk about now is just how we're going to end out the kind of before break. And the Red Wings have 8 games left to play. They're playing Toronto, at Minnesota, at Winnipeg. Then they're playing at home against LA, Washington, once at home against Colorado, away at Colorado, and at Utah. So you've got 2 games that, I mean, if you can pencil them in as losses. You might be able to pencil them in as a split in Colorado. Washington's a beatable team. LA's a beatable team. Winnipeg's a beatable team. Toronto's currently losing 2-1 to the Minnesota Wild right now. If you can split the 8 remaining games, or if you can go 5-3, I'd be a very happy person.
You need points where you can get them, and we're going to see that more and more, especially as you highlighted. Detroit's got game in hand on a lot of teams, but what's important about that is that they are chasing you still. They also have to win to close that gap. And if they're not going to do it, more power to the Wings to just kind of, I don't want to say go into cruise control, but just don't go on a losing bender, if you will. So if they can maintain something in terms of splitting their points over these final 8 games, I think you're in a great spot, because Minnesota is kind of going up and down right now. Not really sure what you're going to get from them. Obviously, you said they're beating Toronto. Toronto's a team that Detroit has played well against of late. And I think going there, they have a great chance. Winnipeg, they've been back and forth. They've been struggling with Helly since he came back. Like, there are very winnable games in this stretch, but then it gets interesting because LA at home, I think they're better chance than LA on the road. But as you get to Washington, Colorado, and Utah, those are going to be tough. So it's a good stretch to get them ready for it. But what's going to be most important for that is there's so many young guys on this team that need a well-deserved break, and that's going to be very important.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's going to give time for guys like Finney, time for guys like ASP to reset. It's the most they've played in a stretch at the highest level in the world of hockey, and it's not going to get easier for them. But I think a saving grace is the Red Wings right now have played the most back-to-back games, I think, out of any team in the league. Mm-hmm. And that lightens up. I think there's only a handful of back-to-backs past the break, as to where our opponents, their back-to-back numbers ramp up a bit. So you figure if you're tired,
on that.
If you're tired in losing back-to-back games, after the Olympic break, you get a little bit more leeway there where your opponent's schedule kind of tightens up a bit, which is nice. It's nice to get them out of the way early.
So I was talking to Mario Damas. on this whole scenario. He brought up the fact that this is on Saturday afternoon of the Wings remaining scheduled by his count, only 3 more back-to-backs with one this upcoming week. So we've got one coming against Toronto, then Minnesota, the 2 on the road, our next 2 games. After that, only 2 more instances of 3 games in 4 nights, including this week.
Which is phenomenal. It's that's killing the team.
Huge. And then, but he made the point, though, that Tampa, by comparison, has 6 more back-to-backs remaining and at least 4 instances of 3 games in 4 nights. Yeah. On top of the fact that you've got most of your stars in Tampa going to the Olympics. So and here's where it's like, selfishly, I'm happy that a guy like Edmondson and DeBrincat didn't make the Olympic roster, because you're going to have them fully healthy and ready to go once this break is completed. And there's going to be a renewed sense of purpose, I feel like, from them in particular. And it'll also hopefully alleviate a little bit from Ray and Larks and Sider. But I also think that the worry that we're going to have coming out of the Olympics is the moves that need to be made potentially at forward rather than D for the potential hangover that could come out of it.
Yeah, so we're going to take a quick break. On the other side of it, we are going to talk about trades that have happened in the league so far.
Segue.
Yeah, and then get into maybe a little bit of like what's still out there, what we might be able to do, what our needs are. So give us a quick second. Word from our sponsors. We'll be right back. The jaw-dropping moments that make hockey, well, hockey. Experience them all with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Missouri listeners, listen up. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in the Show Me State. New customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire within 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright NHL 2025. All rights reserved. And we're back. And this is where some Red Wings fans, because a lot of people are actually surprisingly understanding about this. The Detroit Red Wings did not trade for 2 players that they were reportedly involved in trade talks with. And the first we'll start with is Rasmus Andersson from the Calgary Flames. Calgary traded him to who else? The Vegas Golden Knights for defenseman Zach Whitecloud, defensive prospect Abraham. It says it's Wiebe, and I want to say Weeby, but I don't know if he's German. It could be Wiesa. I have no idea.
It's a guy. This is a guy.
Sure, it's Guy. And then a 2027 first round draft pick and a 2028 second round draft pick. But kind of the kick in the nuts is that the Calgary Flames retained 50% of Rasmus Andersson's contract. That is $2.275 million. Andersson has not agreed to extend there, but I believe he will if they can move money around because it's where he wanted to go. He was reported to wanting to be in Vegas as of last season. Zach Whitecloud is a good defenseman for all intents and purposes. He's got 2 years left on a $2.75 million contract. So, I mean, it's great for them. It's half money going back to Calgary. They improved defensively because he's not a slouch. The other guy's a guy. Don't know much about it, but they get a first and a second. And Red Wings fans were oddly calm about this because I would not have done that deal for Rasmus Andersson.
Yeah, it's the weird situation for Detroit where they really can't afford to lose roster players. Would it be great to get one of these guys? Yes. Did I really want Rasmus Andersson? Also, yes. But, I mean, what's your comparison for Whitecloud?
I don't know. Are you giving up? Is it Albert Johansson and then probably one other piece?
Potentially. I mean, it's tough to really say who that could be. But I would almost argue it's a Sherrod, and maybe that's a bad comparison. I know a lot of people would be like, yeah, send it. But you were gutting your top four to try to make this move. It becomes risky to me.
It's the
And
Quinn Hughes scenario. You're
yeah,
removing a piece in an area of weakness to buff up an area of weakness that almost then becomes a wash.
yeah. I mean, it's where you hope that a trade that does come about is for a prospect and a couple picks, because that you can make do with, in the sense that if you lose a top tier prospect that hasn't necessarily made the league yet, they can still be replaceable.
Now, the word from Elliot Friedman, and I hadn't listened to it, but someone put it out there, was that Yzerman did not want to trade Nate Danielson, that Nate Danielson was probably something Calgary was asking for. And I also would not trade Nate Danielson in a rental because Andersson wasn't discussing extension with anyone. So if you're saying, I'm only going to get 30 games of Rasmus Andersson, and you're going to give me a first, and you're going to give me Nate Danielson, and you're going to give me a second, and you're going to give me other guy from somewhere, I'm not doing it. I'm only doing that if you're saying, and Rasmus Andersson comes, he's 29, he comes with a 5-year extension or whatever that carries him to 34. And that gives you a little bit more wiggle room because you don't want, he's a right shot defenseman. You don't want to block ASP as a second pairing guy for too long. I've never seen Rasmus Andersson play the left side. That's where it gets a little sticky, where if you're looking at right shot defensemen, you want one with less term or one that you don't have to extend for a long time, or you want someone on the left.
Yeah, I think it's tough, right? Because for the way things are trending, you want a right shot for that middle pair. You really could go either way, I think, because you need it. We're seeing some sheltering taking place with ASP in terms of late in a game.
Heavy sheltering.
Yeah, to put it simply. And if you've got a guy like that, that's where the Justin Falk conversation, I think, is starting to gain some traction. Dougie Hamilton, they can eat those minutes on your second pair with Ben Sherratt, and you're not going to lose a whole lot. But it still gives you a full complement of 3 pairings, whereas right now Detroit's just rotating 5. And I think that can be a detriment as the season progresses. But who knows? Like I said, with the Olympic break coming, you're going to have ASP. He's going to have time off. He's going to have time to get in the weight room a little bit, get his body back to where it needs to be to get ready for this grind. But I still don't think it eliminates the fact that they really should solidify that middle pair.
Yeah, the thing about, and you mentioned Dougie Hamilton, he's another one that the Red Wings are talked about around. But the upside there, his contract blows. I mean, he's got 2 more seasons at $9 million per season. But the Red Wings have a lot of money right now. They've got something like $28 million in cap space because of accrued cap up to the end of the year. Dougie's on 2 more years at $9 million a season. But what that does, he's 32 and he's still playing like high level hockey. Like, he's normally an offensive defenseman. This year, his numbers have flipped and his defense is fantastic while providing a little bit of offense. We need to solidify defensively. That's what we need. And Dougie has shown he can do that. Now, where this is great is he's a right shot. So you can move ASP down a slot. He's only got 2 years left on his contract. And if ASP gets the rest of the season and says, I'm on the third, I've got a little bit lighter deployment, got a little bit easier matchups, I take the season off, I gain 10 pounds, I do the Carter Mazer workout, maybe gain 15, work on my defense, I don't see an issue putting a 33-year-old Dougie Hamilton on your third pair in next season or the season after if you want to keep ASP on the third pair for another season. I think it gives you a little bit more flexibility than having to lock up a Rasmus Andersson for 5 years at $9.5 million or whatever he's going to want. And you still accomplish what you set out to accomplish. And I don't think you'd have to spend as much.
Yeah, what's interesting, and I wanted to see it, unfortunately it's not on Puckpedia. So Dougie Hamilton right now is averaging 21 and a half minutes a night. So
that's dog time.
I really don't think, at least if you were to acquire a guy like him, you're not seeing him off your second line anytime soon. In a way, that's a good thing for ASP to continue to grow and develop, I think. But you can bring him in, slot him in there. Who knows? I mean, Sherratt, you don't bring him back next year. That's just the scenario potential. But maybe that even opens up the door for you to move Aljo up. Now you've got Aljo with Dougie Hamilton. I think that could actually be a pretty decent pairing. But again, it puts you in that odd situation of they still need to make something happen in terms of the extra middle pair guy after this season. So the move in season, and what keeps getting hit on is the likelihood of a guy with term getting brought in by Yzerman makes a lot more sense than trying to sign and trade, or trade and then try to sign to an extension type scenario. So Dougie, perfect. What does Falk have right now offhand? You have one more year at
season?
6.5. Yeah. So that's another potential scenario. But he's 33. He'll be 34 in...
Which is perfect. Again, that's a guy with 1 year left, and
March.
you give ASP some time.
Yeah. But I mean, I like the idea of Dougie. The cap's not fun. Maybe you can get a retention there. But there's options available, I think, to make your second pair more effective in the sense of you're not stretching other guys thin to make it work. And it's not something they're in a good position for long term, meaning after this season. But again, Falk, an extra year after this. Dougie Hamilton, 2 more years. I know we had talked about a Colton Parayko. He's got several more years under contract. So there's options there. What's he going to do?
Well, the other guy that we're not going to do is Kiefer Sherwood. Kiefer Sherwood was traded from the Vancouver Canucks to the San Jose Sharks for a 2026 second-round draft pick, a 2027 second-round draft pick, and noted guy Cole Clayton, a 25-year-old defenseman who I think they said is playing in the ECHL right now. Good for the Sharks, I guess. I was not going to give up 2 seconds and a guy for Kiefer Sherwood. I said I would have just traded a second for him straight up. Apparently the Sharks are trying to make the playoffs. They are being really pulled along against their will by Macklin Celebrini, who is far and away the point leader on that team. If Kiefer Sherwood joining, I'm pretty sure, becomes the second highest goal scorer on the Sharks as a middle 6 guy. And it makes their top 6, or 3 guys in their top 6 are over 30 years old now. So I understand that a lot of people are like, it's Greer trying to reward the fans and reward the young kids with a playoff push for how they've played this year. I just don't see them as really in the position to make a trade like that, but they do have a ton of picks in the next couple of years coming up.
Yeah, I think the big thing with all of that is that with Sherwood, you bring some protection now to those guys.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Your young scorers. I mean, he's far and above, like he would be destroying the hits lead if you would have come to Detroit. And we talked about that. I mean, we highlighted that you could potentially get that at the NBN. Is that the case right now? No.
That's what I said. I said, you have a Kiefer Sherwood at home that you could elevate for free.
And I think Mex was even tooting that horn a week or two ago to boot. So it's like one of those things where, yeah, that's a help right now. But again, it's another guy you're going to have to sign a contract for. And he's going to likely want way more money than, in what my opinion is that. What?
The report is he wants 5 years, $5.5 million a season, which is, I would not give him. That takes him to 35 years old as a guy you'd probably play on the third line.
I mean, look, we've got our two depth center, our fourth line centers making over $5 million right now.
Yes, but he's not. I guess I get your point. He's not playing like he is making that much money. And Sherwood would, yeah. But I can't say, please take JT Compher and give us Kiefer Sherwood.
Well, I think what you're betting on at that point with that contract is that he plays a style that's like Tom Wilson, and the fact that he's going to go beat the hell out of you, but he can still put the puck in the net.
It's like Wilson light.
Yeah. I mean, he's had the history of being able to get the assists over the last couple of seasons, but really all of his stat lines are from the last 2-3 years. So he's for sure a late bloomer, but even in the blooming sense, it's nothing to go crazy over. I mean, other than the fact that he just absolutely pummels bodies when he's on the ice. And maybe that's the style that San Jose is going to go for. But we'll see how it plays out. I'm really hopeful when all is said and done, you've got MBN making this roster again and putting the puck in the net the same way that he's been showing down in Grand Rapids.
Well, what I'll end with is that the move, would the move have been nice if you could have got it done for a favorable trade for both sides? Sure. The Red Wings are at a position, they've kind of showed it this year, that they need a big, one or two big swings. You need a top line left wing. You need to trade your first round pick, one of your really good prospects, a roster player maybe, to get someone like Zach Werenski. You need to go get someone like Jason Robertson. People have been talking about Artemi Panarin, and maybe you go get Panarin for a little bit. Those contract kind of blows.
It's expiring deal. So
it's
you have to figure that one out.
but how much less is he going to take for how old he is? But he's still over a point per game player.
I mean, you've got the Kane to factor into that one, so it's possible that
you've got the DeBrincat too. So
yeah,
they all played together in Chicago. You look at where the Red Wings are, and would a move like Sherwood have made sense if you could get it done for cheap? Yes, you could put him in the Mason Appleton slot and he'd give you more offense and he'd beat people up and be fine. People are like, replace Michael Rasmussen with him. Michael Rasmussen is far better defensively than Kiefer Sherwood is. What you need is a big swing. Yzerman needs to put his balls on the table, and he needs to go out there and say, these guys have worked for it. Look where the fuck we are after game 50. Look where we're going and who we've beaten, how we've gotten here. Because Elliot Friedman, another thing he said on 32 Thoughts, he didn't want to go as far as saying the Red Wings have something special, but he said that the Red Wings are proving that the team is better than the sum of its parts. That individually, when you put it all together, it doesn't on paper look like it should be this good, but it is this good because of what the players have committed to, what Todd has committed to, and what they're doing. Like we talked about this several times. Yzerman needs to look at that and go, I'm going to go do something big. If I have to trade this year's first and next year's first for a star player, I'm going to do it.
So quick note, Kane and Panarin played together. Cat was not there when Panarin
was
left.
Cat a baby?
And then Cat came in the year after Panarin was gone.
He was too little.
Yep.
But that's what I think Yzerman needs to do, is he needs to go balls on the table. I'm going to go spend picks, and maybe not all my great prospects, but maybe I need to trade ASP. Maybe I need to trade ASP and a first round pick and a prospect and go get Werenski. And I'd be over the moon about it.
Yeah, it could work. I mean, I think they need more help at the forward side of things than anything else, and in the middle D. It seems to me at this point, not making those two types of moves, at least this season, I think the most important thing that they need to do is to shore up the defense, because that can be what drives you to the promised land. And yes, goal scoring matters, but you can make it a move in the offseason. Go get a guy's rights. Go make that trade for what's coming down the hopper. Know your draft position, and you can get kind of freaky with it. So, like Robertson, for instance, you mentioned him. He's on an expiring deal, right? Go get his rights. Get the negotiations in place so you can try to lock him up to a long-term deal and get the max deal for that matter. So it gets very interesting and kind of scary, because Yzerman made it very clear. I think, was it when he traveled with the team out in Phoenix or Arizona, when he called them out, basically saying if they were playing better, I'd go make them better, for a lack of better words to summarize it. They're finally in that position. I don't think that he just sits idly by, because it's got to be the right move to not dismantle this team. But
yeah.
We'll see.
And I mean, I've talked about other guys too. You could go out and you get a Vincent Trocheck. You could go out. I mentioned Mika Zibanejad. I would love to go get Mika Zibanejad. Robert Thomas has been made available apparently now. If you're looking for a forward, you want center depth, Robert Thomas is a guy you could go get. EP40 is available. And as much as shit as people want to give Elias Pettersson, I think the entire JT Miller situation that happened while he was there totally tanked that team and did irreparable damage for years to come. Like, that team is broken beyond repair. And you could go out and get a guy like Elias Pettersson, I think, for cheaper than you would think because of his fallen performance and because of his contract, and you'd be able to go get him for cheaper than you think. There's options there. And if Yzerman sits on his hands because he says prices are too high and look at what our guys have done, it is going to destroy that locker room. And I will be so pissed off if he sits and does nothing.
I think it's going to get pretty hostile. I mean, you've got the new trade big board on The Athletic, and with the Rangers making their latest letter announcement, which you got to think at this point, that is completely driven by management or ownership. And it's 100%. Just so incredibly cringe and awful. But Panarin's now number one on the Athletic's latest big board. So, and they've actually had an article that Detroit could be one of the top 10 teams they see him going to.
Of course. Get Datsuk on it.
Fit? I don't know. I think for the style, what the team plays, an EP, I mean, he's number 7 on the list. Guys that we just talked about. Panarin's 1. Sherwood was 2. He's already been traded. Dougie Hamilton's number 4. EP's number 7. Stamkos, we've mentioned him and passing a little bit.
Fuck that. Nope.
Never know. Justin Falk, 14. You just mentioned Robert Thomas. He's number 15 on the trade board. Let's see. Would you take a run at Jake DeBrusk?
I would take a run at Jake DeBrusk. I'd take a run at Brock Besser.
That too. So there's options. There's a lot of pretty dangling fruits out there to pick at, but they got to make you better, right? And Jordan Kyrou, he's still sitting on this board at the very bottom. There's one that we have really talked about. I'm surprised isn't getting more traction in terms of the rumor mill. Granted, I think he completely controls what he's got going on, but that's a guy that if you could bring him in and put him up there with Ray and Larkin, deadly.
And who would not want to come to one of the top teams in really the league? Like you say, Red Wings are a dead destination. No one wants to come here. We're showing what we can do with the kids that we have, and it's fantastic. And updated standings. And if you don't listen to Hockeytown West, our friends over in Grand Rapids, you should absolutely go do that because they are awesome. Their podcast is awesome. But Ignite the Nest standings are up, and we lead the East by 11 points currently, thanks to my phenomenal drafting talent. And I'm gonna have to pick another player this week. And I haven't seen.
Speaking of standings,
haven't seen the draft order yet, but I've been pretty good so far.
It's like Mario knows we were talking about him, and he sent me a text while we were recording saying, "Oh, and for those complaining about how no one behind the Wings are losing, today's schedule is saying, all right already. Sabres lose in regulation, Capitals lose in regulation, Panthers lose in regulation, and as of this text, the Leafs were down 2 halfway through the game. Is that still the case?
I think they're down 3 now. I think it's 4-1. They look real bad tonight.
Scores, Leafs are down to the Wild at home, 4-1.
Yeah, they look really bad tonight. Not good. But Ryan, I want to get your final thoughts before we sign off. Go.
Final thoughts. We're in a good spot. I mean, I posted it earlier. We're still trending very highly. We're looking back at the 11-12 season. Everything in terms of wins and points still align to previous playoff teams for this Red Wings group. Very, very important thing, like moving forward. When you look at the final from game 50 to game 82 over their history, I mean, looks like Detroit's going to want to shoot for at least 30 points to be comfortable. When you look at the other playoff teams going back to 15, 16, excuse me, because they had 35 points or more from 2010 through 2016. So maintain something of what you've got going on and you control your destiny. Because right now, what are we sitting at? We're at 64 points. We've guessed that the cutoff will be 95. So that checks out. 31 points.
Tracks.
31 points to get you to 95 over your final 32 games. I mean, history's repeating itself in a way. So if Detroit can maintain a little bit, they're in a great spot. So of those 32 games to get 31 points, that's 16 wins. You got to go 500 to finish out the season and sprinkle in some overtime. So here we go. Keep going. Finish strong. Already around 33.
Yeah. My news is that he's back. He's coming around. He's getting more video clips for us. He's got a new camera. So if you see Hasky's highlights on YouTube and you like his content, he will be on the podcast coming up relatively soon. I still got to hash it out with him. Twitter Messenger blows, so I just gave him my phone number and we're talking to each other now. Right. But we'll get more Hasky content on, and we're going to feature him on the podcast because his stuff is awesome. He's a really good hockey mind, and his clips are really good. So you follow me online at Bring the Wing, Grind Line Podcast online at Grind Line Pod. Thank the Hockey Podcast Network for hosting us and spreading us around. Vintage Detroit Collection, which is the only place you should get your Detroit jerseys from and worked on, and where we have an exclusive t-shirt deal. You can go there, click the Keep It Local tab, click the Grindline Podcast. You'll find our stuff. And we would love for you to go to YouTube at Grindline Pod, subscribe to us, turn on our notifications. We'll let you know whenever our faces will show up on your phone or whatever. Ryan's making an O face.
Miami missed the field goal.
Oh, okay. But that's going to do it for us tonight. So for Ryan, I am Greg. You stay classy, Hockey Town.